Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Willem van der Brugge. I'm the Secretary General of the Confederation of European Probation. And today I'm interviewing Professor Dr. Ioan Durnescu. Professor Durnescu wrote a new book called Correctional Skills, the Training Kit. To tell you something about Professor Ioan Durnescu. He works at the University of Bucharest, the Faculty of Sociology and Social Work. He teaches and conducts research in the area of probation and prison fields. His special interest is comparative probation. He is one of the editors of the Probation in Europe and the Understanding of Penal Practice. Ioan Durnescu is also co-editor of the European Journal of Probation, a journal published by the University of Bucharest in partnership with Sage Publishing. He is also a member of a number of prestigious organizations. For instance, the Radicalization Awareness Network. He's co-chair of the Rehabilitation Working Group. He's an honorary member of the Confederation of European Probation and also the vice president of the Collegium of Social Workers of Romania. Professor Durnescu, what led you to the idea of writing this book?
Yeah, hi Willem, hi everybody. That's a very good question. Actually, I think what led me to write this book is my own experience. At the University of Bucharest, I'm working as a professor, teaching a number of subjects, one of which is methods and techniques working with offenders or with mandated clients. And in this capacity, I was often in the situation where I needed training materials, training instruments, tools that I can easily use in my class. Furthermore, I was also working as trainer in different international projects in countries like in Jordan, Moldova, Kosovo, and so on. And again, in this capacity, I had to put together a lot of training materials to help correctional officers, prison treatment officers or probation officers, how to deal with justice-involved clients. So all this experience actually pushed me somehow to pull together relevant tools, materials, exercises, dilemmas, and so on, that can help me and my colleagues to work better with future correctional staff.
To elaborate a bit more on that, you said the book is based, I think, also on your previous research, but also on your professional practice experience. And could you please explain us which are those researches and practices experience, in which context? Because you said you had a lot of experience training in various jurisdictions in Europe. What did you notice? What did you miss?
Well, first of all, I wanted to make sure that the book is based on the evidence. I wanted to make sure that the theories, the methods, the techniques, the scales, the tools in general that we use are evidence-based and practice-informed. And I think that was quite a challenge because most of these materials were not developed necessarily in the correctional context. Just to give you an example, for a lot of theories and a lot of techniques that are dedicated to building up a working alliance were not developed in the correctional context. So I had to draw a lot from other fields like psychotherapy, anthropology, pedagogy, and so on. So all these kind of challenges made me think that this sort of book is really useful, a useful tool for my fellows, my fellow colleagues in other universities or training centers and so on, and not only for them.
You mentioned that lots of let's say trainings are not developed for, let's say, specific professionals who work in mandatory situations like prison and probation staff. I know that in Europe, motivational interviewing was promoted a lot as a technique to build up relations, to do assessments and so on. Did you elaborate on that in the training too? Did you see, okay, that is, has its weaknesses when it comes to working with this specific target group?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Actually, the five skills, the five core correctional skills that this book is looking at are how to build up a working alliance, pro-social modeling, problem solving, motivational interviewing, and cognitive restructuring. So motivational interviewing is one of the skills that benefited from a lot of attention in this book, because, as you say, it looks to be very effective in working with involuntary clients. And it's also quite well spread out in Europe, and not only in Europe, also in other places like United States, Australia, or Far East. So yeah, it's one of the most popular technique. But as you suggest, is the methodology of motivational interviewing was mainly developed to work with addiction. Or with depression, or with this kind of clients. So I had to do quite a lot of work to adapt this methodology to work with involuntary clients, with hostile clients, with resistant clients, and so on. So yeah, the adaptation effort was quite a significant one in order to make the book and the manual as relevant as possible for the correctional staff.
Yeah, specific for prison and probation staff, and I'm from probation, let's keep it to probation, is that probation professionals always balance in between care and control, continuously.
Yeah.
Care and control. You mentioned the five core correctional skills. Is this perhaps the most important one?
Yeah, I mean, this balance that you just described is what makes from the probation work more than a science. It makes it as an art, because it's very difficult to prescribe for a probation or for a practitioner in general when to be more care orientated, when to be more control orientated. It's very difficult to do that. It's more like it's something to do with the concrete situation, the concrete client, the concrete problem, or the objective of the meeting, and so on. So how to balance care and control in each situation at every moment is more like an art rather than a science.
Yeah.
This topic is also touched on in this manual, especially when we speak about the quality of relationship. Because as I say it in the book, the quality of the relationship is like the blood pressure for the medical science. It's, if you have the good blood pressure, then you are fine in general terms. Of course, you might have other issues, but if you have good blood pressure, you will survive. And I think with this kind of analogy, we can also build a lot in the probation work, because if you have a good working alliance, then you can really build up a lot in terms of human capital, social capital, brokering, community resources, and so on. But only if you have a good working alliance. If not, then things are a little bit more difficult.
Johan, you gave trainings all over Europe and even in the Middle East. Yeah. Are there social and cultural differences between, let's say, probation professionals? I'm always saying probation in the western part of Europe is based on social work. And if I look to the starting qualifications of probation officers in former Eastern Europe, they have a different education, they have a different background. They studied law or criminology or psychology or all kinds of study, but not social work. Do you see that back in your trainings? And
yeah, of course. There are huge differences between different jurisdictions, and sometimes even between different offices within the same jurisdiction, there are huge differences. And yeah, sometimes you can see more kind of law enforcement orientation in some jurisdictions, and in others you see a lot of social work approach. But what is really important, and I make this case quite strongly in the book, is to manage to find the good balance between care and control, as you mentioned, between law enforcement and social work, because we have not to forget that probation is a sort of social work in a justice context, and therefore you need to combine those two attitudes, care and control. You need to do both. Only the so-called hybrid probation officer is effective, rather than a pure social worker or a pure law enforcement officer. So you need to combine both in order to make a good correctional officer in general and a probation officer in particular. And there are differences, and I'm talking about these cultural differences in the book. And I even give some examples I remember from Moldova about empathy, how to express empathy. In some jurisdictions, expressing empathy in a certain way can be quite alarming for the clients. While in the same kind of expression in other parts of Europe can be quite well accepted.
yeah.
So yeah, it's I make this point, and I try to also to make the point of the responsivity principle, trying to speak about how you have to adapt these tools, these methodologies to different minority groups or to different genders. For instance, how women can use this, how men can use this, and I try to be as sensitive as possible to this kind of diversity issues.
Okay. At some point, you talk about the training kit. It's even the strapline of the title of the book. And is the training kit the book itself, or is it a manual, or is it a course, or is it something similar?
Yeah. As a book is it's a book, of course. It's a book. As a content, it's a training kit, because in the manual or in the kit you will find not only the theories, the exercises, the dilemmas, the examples, the practice tips or the management tips, but you also find like, for instance, further resources or recap questions or learning points or tests that can be used in when developing these skills. So it's a training kit, and just to be honest, till the end, my plan is to develop a sort of online, offline course based on this manual. So my plan is to develop this further, adding more skills and adding more training into it, helping as many professionals as possible around the world to become better professionals.
Okay, that's very interesting, because I was just thinking, what is the target group? Are that the trainers or the professionals?
Yeah, well, I think the book can be interesting for a lot of people. For the trainers, for the professors,
Yeah.
can be very interesting because they can find a lot of learning resources here, how they can and instructions, how they can use them in class and so on. For the professionals, can be also very useful because they can find a lot of up-to-date information and knowledge about correctional tools and scales and so on. Just to give you a few examples, in the manual you can find a lot of scales that can help professionals to measure the quality of their relationship. For instance, I have in the book the session rating scale developed by Duncan and colleagues. I also present the Working Alliance inventory developed by Horvath and colleagues and so on. I also developed in great details the empathic communication scale, which is also a very good tool to help professionals, current professionals, to measure themselves and to see how good they are in using this kind of techniques and methodologies. So I think it can be useful for the professionals as well, for the volunteers, for the students, for probation staff, for prison staff, especially those interested in the rehabilitation work. So I think it has quite a wide appeal to a lot of categories of professionals.
Last question. I think it's a very interesting book, but being a probation professional is not all about theory. It's also about practicing and doing exercises. Yeah. And from what I understand is that this book contains lots of exercises people can practice. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, it has a lot of exercises, a lot of examples, a lot of dialogues. For instance, when speaking about the Working Alliance, the book has also an annex with how the dialogue should or can look like in the first meeting between the correctional officer and the client or the offender. So you can see a lot of examples, exercises, dilemmas, role plays, case studies that can really help professionals or trainers get ready for the real world. And most of these examples, I mean, all of them are actually based on real cases or real experiences that I went through. Directly or indirectly through different colleagues and partners with whom I shared my previous experience. And I would like to take this opportunity now to thank all of those who contributed directly or indirectly to this book, because I learned a lot in the past 20 years from different people, from different places. And in many respects, this book is also theirs, not only mine.
Okay, thank you, Ioan Durnescu, for this interview. You have your own website, Correctional Skills. We published the book already on the bookshelf of the CEP. There's a link to your website where people can order the book. It sounds very, very interesting, and I hope it will be a success.
Well,
thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you, Willem. I really appreciate it. And I hope I will manage to find the resources to develop this book into a program, a training program that would be available.
Yeah, that would be very, very interesting. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Willem. Bye.